What's going on, Team Killchain here, and Dragonflight has been out for a hot minute and most people's first character has truly closed in on level 70. You may even be working on your second or third ult by now as well. Today we want to get you squared away and prepared for all avenues of content for your Fury Warrior. We're talking talents, gear, consumables, the whole 9 yards, but before we kick things off I want to remind everyone that the chapters down below in the video timeline will easily help you navigate to any section. Alright, let's go! Straight out of the gate, let's look at talents. So, 2 different theme builds and then subsequently 2 primary pillars of PvE endgame content, being raiding and Mythic Plus. First, to touch on raiding, we do have an Annihilator variant if you're just a really big fan of the build and change up in playstyle. However, it is important to note that it does do less damage and is more complicated of a rotation. I really wouldn't recommend this particular setup for a raiding environment right now. However, the link will be down in the description if you so choose. The actual raid build we're covering is naturally more aligned to how it was in Shadowlands, a more Raging Blow focused build. Just like my pre-patch videos, if you happen to see them, the green highlights are your standard go-to talents that form the strict core part of the build, and then blue highlights are those flex talents that you can swap around for circumstantial or preferential reasons. The key components here are really all synchronizing all those big 1.5 minute cooldowns into this big burst window. Spirit Bastion with a Legion Might increases your critical damage. You've got Avatar increasing your overall damage, proccing Odin's Fury. Odin's Fury then in turn increases your auto attacks. You've got Recklessness helping us pump with big rage generation and increase critical chance. Then you have the Ravager stacks up the hefty 30% strength increase buff from Hurricane, and that naturally pumps even more damage passively while you continue your rotation. Outside of this big damage window, we obviously have notable talents like Reckless Abandon. This now allows you to empower your Bloodthirst and Raging Blow abilities after every rampage rather than during Recklessness. So way more uptime on the empowered abilities through Reckless Abandon. That really helps us out in our single target variation from there. And then naturally the capstone modifier on top of that, Unbridled Ferocity, just gives us more Recklessness uptime throughout the fight. On the flip side, as for Mythic Plus, we again have the battle between an Annihilator SOS based build and a Bloodbath Unbridled Ferocity build. Now, in both of these scenarios though, heavy emphasis is placed on the Cold Steel Hot Blood talent, so we are going for bleeds in some capacity. However, the Unbridled Bloodbath build, as I like to call it, forgoes that deep transition into Storm of Swords and Annihilator on the left to help maintain that bursty Spirit Bastion and Ravager combo. Storm of Swords, or the SOS build, dishes out very formidable AoE damage with the bleeds and everything, but really suffers significantly on a single target environment, even with the cooldowns up. So this may very well change as secondary stats increase over time throughout the tier and throughout the expansion, but at the moment it kind of remains quite noticeable. The Unbridled Bloodbath build, however, helps alleviate that single target pain point by giving you the Reckless Abandon, as I mentioned, so that helps maintain the good uptime on empowered abilities, so Bloodthirst turning into Bloodbath. And additionally, with Unbridled Ferocity, helps keep Recklessness uptime even in a single target environment. Much better in single target pressure, especially on tyrannical weeks and things like that. That being said, the Mythic Plus variation with Storm of Swords is definitely workable as you build up your Mythic Plus team for that particular dungeon or that week. If you run with regulars, you can take that into consideration, knowing that you're not providing too much in terms of single target prowess. So you may have another class that can help bridge that gap. Now let's talk stats. Mastery then crit chance are going to take up the top spots, closely followed by haste, then versatility bringing up the rear. It is important to note here that crit chance will play more of a prominent role in any build featuring Cold Steel Hot Blood as a talent, and that's due to the crit requirement for the proc. While it's 110% always going to be recommended to sim your character if you really want to squeeze out the most out of your gear, the great rule of thumb is that crit and mastery are more or less the same at the top, followed by haste, then versatility well below those 3. Haste also peaks in useful ways in certain breakpoint situations, most notable of which in the Bloodbath Mythic Plus build, for example, is you ideally want to get the cooldown of Bloodthirst down enough to allow it to be used every second GCD would be ideal. Think Bloodthirst Rampage, Bloodthirst Execute, Bloodthirst Rampage, etc. This becomes less and less important though as your crit chance goes up, because obviously now you'll have more of a chance to proc Cold Steel Hot Blood, meaning that reapplication before it falls off is more likely. Another great little tip is that Bloodthirst and Bloodbath, which is the empowered version of the spell, actually share separate CDs. You'll often encounter Bloodthirsting and then Rampaging straight after, which will immediately swap it into Bloodbath instead, and allows you to not have to wait around if you have low haste levels. So that is important to note as well. Alrighty, now we're flying. Consumables. So let's do the enchants first. We want Frozen Devotion for our weapons, Graceful Avoidance on our cloak, although Homebound Speed could be another option if avoidance isn't really needed for the AoE damage reduction. Waking Stats on the chest for a big primary stat boost, Devotion of Avoidance on braces, which again could be substituted for Devotion of Leech if you prefer Leech over AoE damage reduction. Fierce Armor Kit on our legs for a hefty primary stat and stam buff. Watcher's Loam for stamina will likely be the best, but as a Fury Warrior, if you're feeling comfortable for your boot enchant with your current health pool, you could get Planesrunner's Breeze as it gives a really nice speed boost. If you're not dying this well, could be a pretty solid alternative. Lastly, for our rings, we want Devotion of Mastery, otherwise do consider Devotion of Crit Chance as a solid choice if you're predominantly running with Cold Steel Hot Blood. For vials now, or files, or however you pronounce it, best will be Static Empowerment in theory. However, brutal truth is, like in Mythic Plus, most definitely it's non-existent that you're going to be able to stand still, but 99% of rating counters as well. Honestly, the vast majority, you're not going to be able to get the full benefit out of the Static Empowerment. So for that, Mythic Plus will end up wanting Glacial Fury, otherwise Elemental Chaos will most likely be our best choice here. That's what I recommend picking up for now. Our damage pot will be just a simple elemental potion of ultimate power. It's pretty standard primary stat boost for the duration. We'll want to make sure we stock up on refreshing healing potions, obviously for our health pots, but also worthwhile considering having a nice pool of Withering Vitality. Kiss Curse for a larger heal and obviously does the damage back over time, allowing your healers actual time to help alleviate the pain. And there's some quirky new pots as well that'll actually allow you to heal and deal damage while dead. Could be very good in Mythic Plus and some progression raids and stuff like that. So that's well worth at least having on your radar. For us blacksmithers out there, unfortunately, Sharpening Stones isn't technically the best weapon augmentation, though could be a very, very cheap alternative. That's relatively marginally worse. But if we're trying to squeeze out the min-max, Buzzing Ruins, which is from Inscription, is going to be our best bet there. So, like I said, however, the cheaper alternative for Sharpening Stones will suffice if you need to, but Buzzing Ruins is the way to go. Lastly, obviously, most of us are going to be eating feasts for our food, but you want to stock up on Fated Fortune Cookies for our personal food, which does the same amount. It's literally just a primary stat boost for our food buff. As for gems, we have our one Primalist gem, which will be the Skillful Illimited Diamond. All other gem socklets, we're obviously swapping either between Fractured Nelthorite or Sensei's Nelthorite if you need some crit mixed in there as well. If this video has been at all helpful, make sure you smash that like button. That does help us out massively, and subscribe for more future content. As a stay-at-home dad, obviously being able to grow this into something long-term eventually will be very helpful to help out the family, I suppose, But if you're interested in macros, I was tossing up whether to add a macro section in here, but we had recently done Season 4 macros. For the most part, they're pretty much well the same. So the link will be somewhere up on the screen for the macro video. Feel free to check them out if that is something that interests you as well. Thanks again very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.